Oh man, okay, you've heard about the fire sale, right? The Calgary Flames going out there and sending away everybody under the sun. You've got Tyler Toffoli, he was gone. Elias Lindholm, he was gone. Nikita Zadorov, he was gone. Chris Tanev, he was gone. Noah Hanifin, he was gone. Jacob Markstrom, he was gone. Everybody of value in the Calgary Flames organization was gone. So now, why not talk about one of the remaining pieces? Now, full disclosure, I'm recording this audio on the night of Friday, August 23rd, so by the time this is uploaded, it'll be Saturday, maybe at noon, sometime after, who really knows. If there is a trade, then we're gonna have to make another video, but for now, what I wanted to do was bring up an idea tossed out there on the wincolumn.ca. This article was published on the 20th by James Johnson, and it goes over one of the final remaining actually valuable pieces that the Calgary Flames have on their team. Okay, maybe that's like a rude way to say it, but like when it comes to the mainstay top guys on the squad, not necessarily younger prospects with value who are still unproven, but guys that are relatively useful and guys whom you could say help a win-now team right now. Let's read this article and the idea attached to it. Does a Rasmus Andersson trade make sense for the Edmonton Oilers? Okay, we are sacrificing the Alberta rivalry to get this trade idea tossed out there. Rasmus Andersson as a potential Edmonton Oilers trade target. Now, before we go out there and read the actual article, see what Johnson proposes, I wanted to just talk about the player first. Rasmus Andersson is a 27-year-old, 6 feet 214 right-handed defenseman drafted by the Flames in the 2015 NHL draft. He's making $4.5 million a year till the end of 2025-2026, and while that is not necessarily cheap, what Andersson provides is so much more than just that amount of dollar value. He had 39 points in 78 games played this previous season, which is actually not bad, but it is a little bit of a decline from the 50 and 49 point seasons he had in 21-22 and 22-23. Whilst producing points, Rasmus Andersson is just an overall beast of a hockey player who does pretty much everything you need a defenseman to be able to do. He blocks shots, he dishes out hits, he scores points, he's a beast. Rasmus Andersson is so useful. And for a guy who is kind of entering that territory where it's like, yeah, he's not necessarily young anymore. I mean, it was drafted 2015, right? So he's 27 years old, turning 28 at the start of the 24-25 season. You could certainly debate that for a guy like Andersson, being a part of a Calgary Flames team that isn't really set to competing anytime soon may be seen as a bit of a turnoff. Now, sure, he will be a free agent in 2 years' time, but if he wants to go out there and maybe expand on his hockey-playing ability with a team that's capable of winning right now, Andersson is in a position to get traded. He has no trade protection, he can get traded anywhere, and when it comes to the idea of the Edmonton Oilers being involved here, we'd already made a video just yesterday going over some other right-handed defenseman targets that the Oilers could explore. David Savard, Jeff Petrie, the same article that we had looked at from The Score by Josh Wegman had a whole bunch of other names too. But Rasmus Andersson, I wanted to turn to the win column because this is a Calgary Flames-centered website going out there and giving their perspective on sharing the load with this other Alberta rival. So, let's go out there and read what James Johnson goes out there and writes about. The Flames have had a very quiet last few months. Compared to last summer, I'm sure that is a welcomed change for anybody in the organization. The same cannot be said, though, for the team up north, as they've been in the news quite frequently. From a controversial GM hiring, a rumored Draisaitl extension, offer sheets, to a few trades in the last few days, things are busy in Edmonton in the dog days of summer. The most prevalent story is the dual offer sheets that were signed by Broberg and Holloway, and then you had yourselves the Oilers declining to match and allowing those two guys to become St. Louis Blues. Broberg in particular took a step in last year's playoffs and looks like a fixture in the Oilers' top four. Losing him for a second rounder leaves a hole. Trading Cody Ceci and a third rounder to San Jose for Ty Emberson didn't change their blue line much, so speculation has begun on who the Oilers might bring in to supplement their defense. This is where the writer talks about Rasmus Andersson, and now he has been brought up a ton in the last week by Oilers fans. Radio shows, podcasts, social media, you name it, Andersson to the Oilers has already been mentioned. And Johnson writes here that it does make sense. Now that the Oilers have lost Broberg, there is a hole in the right side of their defense. I'm not sure if Anderson is the perfect stylistic fit for the Oilers' blue line, but he is a cost-controlled right D in a market where there aren't too many. He would instantly make them the Cup favorite if they aren't already. By no means do I think the Flames consider trading one of their core players to the Oilers. Anderson is a guy who can fetch premium future assets given his age, contract, and the position he plays. Since the Oilers don't have many good future assets, I don't really see the fit here. And this is kind of where I have to disagree a little bit. I do think that if the Oilers wanted to expand more on the offensive potential of a guy like Darnell Nurse, giving him in all situations, versatile, defensively minded, defensively excellent, and two-way able defenseman like Rasmus Andersson, I do think that is like best case scenario for what you could try to build here. And the reason I think that is because if you have your top pairing of Bouchard-Ekholm, that kind of has the yin and the yang, you know, the offense and the defense balancing itself out. Evan Bouchard, super good offensively. Mattias Ekholm can make back on defense. He can back check. He can play well in his own zone, etc. Darnell Nurse is more of a hybrid, and I feel like Rasmus Andersson kind of plays a hybrid style too. It almost feels too perfect, in my opinion at least. And then you could have Ty Emberson playing with Kulak on the third pairing, and then have Troy Stecher and Brown rotating around in there once in a while too if you need the extra bodies. I do think that an extra right-handed defenseman like Anderson would be a huge upgrade over what the Oilers had in Cody Ceci. And when you think about how they made the finals with Ceci Nurse as a pairing already, you start to wonder, okay, where can they go from here? Even if they lose out on Philip Broberg, what's the potential of a team that has Rasmus Andersson on it rather than Cody Ceci? Now, if you head back over onto the article, it actually does say here that Friedman on 32 Thoughts mentioned the Andersson buzz in Edmonton. However, he made sure to note that the Flames have told their players things are going to be quiet for the rest of the summer. They're comfortable going into next season with the group that they have. But, of course, that's not going to stop fans, media, radio, people going out there and talking about the idea of Andersson to Edmonton. It is kind of funny as well, just kind of acknowledging how often we seem to see players go from Edmonton to Calgary or Calgary to Edmonton. There was like an entire time in the 2015, 16, 17 era where it was like everybody, Mike Smith, James Neal, Milan Lucic, all just kind of swapping around, sloppy secondsing it up between the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers. Sure, that didn't last for too long, but now it's like, hey, could they do it again? Could Rasmus Andersson be a part of some sort of a trade, be the guy that the Oilers need? And furthermore, what exactly is the price there? I mean, Andersson is a premium right-handed defenseman right now, and I think that does not come with a cheap price tag at all. Let's go over onto the Puckpedia page for the Edmonton Oilers. Do they show off, like, what draft picks and stuff a team has? Okay, so the Oilers have $945,000 in cap space. That's not going to be able to accommodate Rasmus Andersson. You're going to have to probably trade somebody away, but if you go over to draft picks, do they have draft picks? Okay, yeah, so they don't have their first in 2025. They have their second, they have their third, they have their first in 26 and 27, though. So maybe if the Oilers wanted to go, let's say, double down, a first in 2026, a second in 2025, and then another prospect or something, maybe that gets it done. Who really knows? The Oilers could use to trade away some of their extra draft capital because their window of opportunity is right now. Meanwhile, for Calgary, I wouldn't necessarily think it's a sin to think of this team as potentially vulnerable in the now, right? I mean, by the time the trade deadline comes around, if the Calgary Flames are barely looking into the playoff race, then maybe it is something that they go out there and do. They trade everybody away again like they did this previous offseason. Of course, circumstances are different, right? A lot of these guys were expiring contracts in last season's worth of play. But for Calgary, I do kind of question where they could go with the Rasmus Andersson contract. I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section as well. If it's Rasmus Andersson to Edmonton, does this make sense in your opinion? We'll probably have a lot of Oilers fans jumping in here, probably have a lot of Flames fans as well. Can you put aside the Battle of Alberta rivalry to maybe manifest a trade that both of your teams will benefit from? Long-term assets for Calgary, shorter-term win-now, right-handed defenseman assets for Edmonton. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this Rasmus Andersson trade. I hope you enjoyed this video. 9 and bye.